Hello everyone. My name is Donna Hanson Squires. My role here at Guru is Head of Customer Success. My background is in learning design, but yes, obviously, manager-led coaching is a particular passion of mine because I have seen the value that adds to a lot of learning programs. So this is one of a series of webinars that we've been running, having a closer look at some of our Guru Academy features, and also talking about how you can use them to deliver more engaging courses and provide extra value for your customers. Already introduced myself, but I'll throw over to Gemma, who can do an intro for those of you who don't know Gemma.
Thank you, Donna. Hello, I'm Gemma Shipley. I am Key Account Manager here at Guru with a focus on Guru Academy, which is the platform that we'll be talking about today and the platform of which our series of feature webinars is about. My background is also in learning design and mostly in the university and enterprise education space. And then obviously my role has now shifted over into account management and business growth for our customers.
Thank you. Just a little bit of housekeeping information. We will be recording this session, so we'll pop it up on our website after the fact, and we'll send you a link in case you want to pass it on to anyone else who might have missed the session. The other thing I wanted to note is we do have a Q&A available. So if you've got any questions as we go through today's session, we've aimed for about 30 minutes for the presentation and about 15 minutes for Q&A. So please let us know your cues so we can address them at the end of the session. All right, so just the agenda for today. We're going to have a look at the, I guess, what is manager-led coaching? Somewhat self-explanatory by the name, but looking into the business case for manager-led coaching. We'll look at some research into how workplace performance outcomes have improved as a result of manager-led coaching. We'll look at how coaching really helps with the learning transfer. So it's one thing to go to a program, learn a bunch of stuff, but actually putting that into action is a step that manager-led coaching can really help with. So we'll cover that off today. We'll have a look at some of the coaching features in Academy as well. I know we've got a lot of Academy users in this session today. So we'll give you a few tips on how you can enable manager-led coaching in Academy. We've got a few best practices and some tips for implementing manager-led coaching as well. So Gemma, I'll hand over to you for a bit of a overview and benefits.
Thanks very much. So I wanted to start off with an interesting statistic, which is less than 15 to 20% of the knowledge and skills acquired in training programs is actually transferred into the workplace, which is something that we're trying to change here at Guru, of course, with our course platform and feature set. So research tells us that without ongoing support, learners forget an average of 50% of new information within an hour, and of course, much more throughout the week. So you can imagine how much of a challenge this is for organizations who are investing in professional development. So what can we do about this? And how can we make sure the lessons learned in training programs are being implemented back at work? You guessed it, manager-led coaching. So manager-led coaching can address these challenges, and what it involves a learner's workplace manager taking on a coaching role during a training program to support their learning and encourage their growth. So this manager provides a unique opportunity to hyper-contextualize a program within that learner, their employee's own context, in the business context. So along with that workplace context, these manager coaches, they create a supportive learning environment. They consult on the learning goals of the individual. They have periodic check-ins before, during, and after the program. And then, back at work, they create opportunities for on-the-job practice and give immediate and real-world feedback. And then, of course, very importantly, hold learners accountable for achieving their goals. So to compare traditional approaches with manager-led coaching, so, a traditional approach to learning, you would see an employee be sent off to a professional learning course. They'd come back to work after that program, and their manager would pretty much just expect them to implement everything back at work and like just see immediate outcomes. We all know that's not necessarily the case. And these traditional approaches, there isn't really any follow-up or support to implement those skills learned at the program back into the workplace. With the manager-led coaching approach, though, that manager, that coach, they are embedded in the program from the start. So they prepare the employee for learning, they provide active support during the program, and then there's also this structured approach to the application of knowledge back at work, which helps the learner grow and removes the barriers to adopting these new skills and implementing them back at work. So there are heaps of benefits of embedding manager-led coaching, which you can see on the screen. But I wanted to talk about how this is like the benefits are noticeable across different learning contexts. And I know some of our attendees today come from various different providers of education. So we can see the benefits of manager-led coaching, across open portfolios with topics like leadership and communication or digital skills, and of course the custom versions of those programs as well. But also we can see the benefit in in-house compliance training at organizations. So they're really great in open programs to serve broad audiences, while ensuring that workplace relevance for each individual learner. And in-house programs can benefit from that deep connection to the organizational context and the practices that each team would have, because the manager can bring in that insight. And then, of course, the kind of really important one for anyone is that manager-led coaching really enables cost efficiency at scale when you're delivering programs, because you're leveraging a learner's manager instead of having to pay an external coaching service or your facilitators to provide that service. So if you jump over to the next slide, please, Donna. I wanted to talk about the business case for manager-led coaching, which my last point kind of leads on to quite well. As we all know, organizations want to ensure return on investment for workplace learning. So when I mention that ROI, I'm not just talking about the return on monetary investment of sending someone to the course, but also, the engagement that you get and the retention of those employees as a result of providing impactful learning experience. We're also getting an uplift in employee capability, workplace culture, and outcomes for customers as well, on top of those hard numbers. So manager-led coaching is a great way to embed lasting behavior change back at work and tap into those benefits. When we talk about the benefits of manager-led coaching, there is an important caveat that I wanted to cover off, which is the managers must be properly prepared to take on the role. So as a research review has revealed that learning transfer can increase by up to 50% when coaches are properly prepared for their role. So to maximize learning transfer and workplace performance, we need to provide the managers with coaching skills and knowledge of the course well enough to be able to coach the program. Here at Guru, we've seen a couple of clients who have manager-led coaching in their programs struggle to get it off the ground because there isn't enough guidance and support for those coaches. We haven't really seen this like great communication of the value of what the manager-led coaching can do. And it's not only important during the course itself, but also back into the workplace to see that immediate effect, but also to embed long-term change. So in the custom and open portfolio context for people that are course providers, this is obviously a bit tricky because we're not necessarily closely connected to these managers. So that's why it's important to make good resources for the coaches and embed particular elements of the course that encourage the learner to also encourage their coach to participate. So, the program facilitator is also quite critical in pushing engagement. If the facilitator includes coaching as part of the learning journey and talks about it during the course and encourages learners to discuss their experiences with coaching together, that's when we kind of see that it becomes more adopted. And of course, the value of coaching needs to be communicated to the managers to make sure that they're willing to give their time to do it. Um, so the impacts of manager-led coaching also extend out just beyond professional development of the individual, and they also have positive effects into the organizations as a whole. There's a few like fringe benefits that we see of embedding manager-led coaching into your courses, which is the development of coaching capability in these managers. And they become learning enablers, which, creates this organizational culture of learning, which is a really great thing to see. And what happens in those learning cultures is a more productive work environment is created where team members feel supported and respected and are free to express their emotions and concerns. Like we live in a world where different generations come together at work, and oftentimes they have very different work values and approaches. So when we bridge those gaps, we build stronger working relationships. And that's one of the things that manager-led coaching can do.
Thanks, Gemma. I'm going to have a bit of a chat about learning transfer. I know we've got a really diverse group of organizations and roles on this call, so I won't get too into in-house programs, but those of you who are doing in-house learning and development would be keenly aware that just because someone learns something in a course does not mean they necessarily do it on the job. We see time and time again people having these incredible face-to-face programs where they walk away feeling so amped up about what they're going to do, what they're going to change when they get back to their job, but then the reality of their job hits them. And it is really easy to let that knowledge and that motivation slip away. So one of the things that I love about manager-led coaching is the fact that it helps you sustain the momentum of training. We know that knowledge does not equal application. We need that contextual feedback. We need those opportunities for practice, for receiving feedback. It's as though we get the theory, we get the concepts, we get some opportunities to practice within the course environment, but then we've got to put that into the context of our own organizations. And practice makes perfect. So doing those tasks again and again and again helps you build that muscle memory. Regular feedback is a great way to prevent bad habits forming. We all know that it's much harder to break a bad habit once it's sort of in practice. So having that manager-led coach feedback in there really does help sort of prevent those bad habits getting in. And then the last one relating to learning transfer is it puts some accountability in place. And extending the momentum of a course, we want them to go ahead and put that knowledge into practice. Manager-led coaching adds a little bit of accountability because the learner's going to have to talk about it with their coach. And it also means that they can't shy away from maybe challenging aspects of application as well. So yeah, really setting the learner up to apply what they've learned in the course. Here's an example. I won't go through it in a great amount of detail, but just imagine on one side we have this guy, Mark, who's gone on a program about leading change. On one side, Mark's done the training only, and on the other side, we've got some manager-led coaching in there as well. And you can imagine over a period of time, Mark's very keen coming back from his course, getting into the workplace and looking to lead change, but without that ongoing support and coaching and feedback, it can be easy for those for the learner to get demotivated about actually putting those changes into practice, and sometimes the inability to tackle issues head on. But yeah, it's really important to involve the manager so that they can be a part of the learner's ongoing commitment to learning. Gemma, I might hand back to you to take us through some of the academy features, if that's okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. So most of you, I think, will be familiar with the Academy platform. However, I don't think many of you would be familiar with the coaching features that we have. So what I'll do is I'm just going to quickly provide an overview of the ones that we do have, and then I'm going to jump off onto the Academy and give you a little demo. So what the Academy, the Academy platform basically is set up to embed manager-led coaching quite deeply into the learning experience, not only for the learners, but for the coaches as well. So for learners, what we've got is simple nomination process that they complete during their own course onboarding, where they can nominate their manager or perhaps a mentor or a peer as their coach. We also have the functionality for people to be assigned coaches as well. The learners can then also complete a diagnostic tool. So one of the existing features of Guru Academy that you may be familiar with is our diagnostic tool that measures confidence and capability of learners across a series of metrics. So what we can do with the coaching is we can add the coach into this workflow where the learner completes the diagnostic tool, the manager then completes the questionnaire about their learner, and then they come together to have a conversation about where there may have been some discrepancies in the answers and what areas of development that learner can take away to focus on during the course. And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. Now, for the coaches, what we have is they actually also get access to the Academy platform and an overview of the course. So they get their own dedicated onboarding and coaching dashboard where they can track where their learners are up to. We also provide them with a comprehensive coaching guide. So this has things like the learning objectives and a brief overview of the content. It's got conversation starters and questions so they know how to help that learner with the content of the course, and also provides things like application frameworks so they can help the learner back in the workplace apply their new skills. And along with the progress tracking, if you want to really deeply embed the coach in the experience, they can even review and provide feedback on tasks that the learner are completing throughout the journey. So with that being said, I'm going to share the platform, and what I'm going to share with you is the coaching dashboard. So what you can see here, I, as a coach, have been given access to the Academy platform. I have a coaching dashboard. So what you can see is I'm currently a coach in one program, the Leading Successful Teams, and I have 6 learners in this program. So they're listed here below. They're all at various points in their learning journey. I can also have a look at the transcript of each of these learners if I wanted to drill down a little bit closer into where they're up to in their journey. And so another thing that we provide with the coaches is an onboarding experience that gives them a bit more of a, sets them up for success in terms of, joining the course, understanding where to go for support on the platform and things like that. The coaching onboarding is a mirror of the learner onboarding with a few things taken out or replaced based on the coach context. I'll just jump back to my homepage. So now that I've done that onboarding, I can then get access to the coaching guide through here as well. I won't look at that for now, but instead I'll also show you the second area where coaches need to be aware, which is the actions inbox. So this particular coach has some diagnostics to complete, as I mentioned before. So you can see 4 of my learners haven't started it. I've done the coach response for the top learner, but I need to do this one. So I'll jump into here and show you what that looks like. So for the diagnostic workflow, as I mentioned before, the learner does it themselves. I would then do it myself. Each of those things happen in isolation, and then we come together to talk about a collective response. So I'm just going to jump through this quickly to show you about my learner. So what we do is we set up a series of questions relevant to a set of metrics that are relevant to the particular course and context of the program, submit my responses, and then I get this table. So what it shows me as the coach is it shows across these metrics that we've set up where my learner is sitting. So it's important the coach obviously answers of their employee what they think of them. And you can see in the responses here, the learner has benchmarked themselves around this kind of upper level part with the little L here. I've given them like a great reaction here. So, but what that means is there's a bit of a discrepancy here in like what the learner thinks of themselves versus what the coach thinks of them. And that's a great piece, topic of conversation where we can figure out what's going on there. And, in a different, on the flip side of that, if the coach thinks that the learner is not where the learner thinks they are, how can that learner focus up, and see that as an area of development throughout the course? So this is a really great tool that gives some interesting insights. And then once the coach completes their response, the two can sit down together, and they then complete it together. So what we do is we like bring up the diagnostic again. We can see what the learner said. We can see what the coach said. And so they can discuss, they can determine the final kind of right area, and then also provide some commentary about what's going on there, what we might like to focus on, and how we can look at these things moving forward. So that is the diagnostic. I'll go back to the actions home. So yeah, that's the coaching dashboard. Obviously, from the learner's perspective, these things pop up in the flow of their learning course as well. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Back to you, Donna.
Oh, I will share my screen.
All right. So now that you've seen what it looks like and seen it in action, Donna's going to take us through some best practices.
I am. So first, starting with psychological safety. This is a hot topic for organisations across Australia, and it is really critical when it comes to manager-led coaching as well. I know a lot of organizations are talking a lot about psychological safety, but when you think about coaching, we are asking someone to be vulnerable. We're asking them to share what they're not good at. We're asking them to maybe struggle a bit to learn new skills, or we're asking them to experiment with doing something new and different. And that can't happen in a place without psychological safety. So we want people to be able to share their own experiences, be vulnerable, and I think that also plays into what we need from the coach as well. So to create a psychologically safe environment for manager-led coaching, it can be valuable for the coach to maybe share some of their own struggles or their own challenges in that particular area, and really remain open-minded and curious about being part of the learner's journey. So yeah, coach prep is critical, but if there's an organization that just or a team that doesn't have that psychological safety in place, it's hard to get good coaching happening without that sort of trust. In terms of setting up your coaches for success, that is really critical. I can see we've got a question in the Q&A about coaching guides, so we'll come to that at the end. I have seen some great success in organizations that train their coaches on how to be coaches. That might not work necessarily for open programs, but certainly for in-house. What are the resources, whether that's coaches guides, other resources, even setting them up with coaching frameworks and so on, can really prepare the coaches and enable a more successful coaching experience. I also recommend just picking the right coaching model. There is a million coaching models of various levels of complexity and differences. I like Oscar, the one I've put on the slide. I also like Grow. The reason why I like these two is because they're easy to follow, they're easy to remember. One thing to note about managers as coaches, they're probably not professional coaches. So when you're hiring an executive coach or something like that, they're going to come with a toolkit of amazing coaching techniques and resources. We can't expect the same from managers. So we want to give them a framework that is easy to follow, easy to remember, and also easy to apply consistently. So yeah, Oscar's a favorite of mine, but you'll find the one that you like yourself. The other best practice I will note is trying to embed manager-led coaching within the existing organizational processes. Um, Everyone is busy. Everyone is time poor. We all wish that we had, time to take away from our daily job to, spend that time coaching and learning with people, but it can be challenging. But organizations probably already have certain things as part of their organizational cadence. So, could you use manager one-on-ones to cover off some of the coaching? Or could they, I don't know, using the leading change example previously, we could have the manager come along to some of the existing meetings and provide some coaching based on that. So where possible, try to include manager-led coaching in the cadence of things that people are already doing. If it has to be an extra thing that the manager and the learner both need to plan and execute, it's easy for that to get lost. So get it into the organizational context is another recommendation I'd make. And then the last one, focus on one skill at a time. That's obvious. We can't fix everything in one day. So let's pick one critical issue to work on with coaching, cover that off, and then look at maybe doing the next one. It is one of the blessings of going to an amazing training program is you come out with all of these ideas about how you're going to conquer the world and improve your team and your role and everything else. But we all know that you can't do all of these things at once. So part of the role for managers as coaches is to help prioritize what are those issues that we're going to look at coaching on. So a few recommendations there. Find your model, make sure there's that psychological safety built up at the start, and then don't make it too much of an extra thing that people have to do. If we can build it into what's already happening within the organization, you're much more likely to succeed. And with that, Gemma has a few suggestions for implementing manager-led
Yes, that's right.
coaching.
So this is your coaching implementation roadmap. So it's a kind of a combination of the things that we've already talked about today. But I just wanted to kind of present them in a linear model that you can follow to make it easy to embed. So ideally, you're probably going to pick a pilot course to run this in, so to gain a bit of traction and perfect your model. So that's kind of the first step, is to pick a course that coaching is relevant for, and then find some integration points and practical application pieces of that course that suit the coaching model well, and kind of build the coaching part of your course around that. Make sure you're taking your learning objectives into consideration when you're doing that. Manager-led coaching is a way for you to achieve those learning objectives back at work. And the feature set that you have with Academy, like which of those pieces of the platform do you want to use? Do you want to use the coaching workflow? Do you want your coaches to review tasks? It's worth noting and considering as well the relationship and the content of the course. Is this, not every course should have managers review employees' work, because it may be that they're commenting on things that they don't necessarily want their managers to see. So that's an important nuance to think about when you're designing coaching into your course. And then, of course, minor one perhaps, but very important, is make sure that the platform is configured properly to remove any barriers to adoption. Next thing you want to do is set your coaches up for success. So we've talked about this a lot. It's really important. The coaching guide is a really key and critical function of this. So you want to make sure that the coaching guide is reasonably comprehensive about what's in the course, what the goals are for each learner, and then, of course, providing the coach with support to do their role, provide them with some conversation points, some questions to ask, and some workplace application tips. One of our clients that uses coaching, they actually provide their coaches with a free short course on coaching. So, along with the coaching guide, they get a short self-paced learning experience, which is really great. Gives them some tips. I think it talks about the GROW model that Donna mentioned before, and also gives them a little insight into what the learning experience on Academy is like. So it's got a bit of a twofold benefit there, that one. I think for in-house programs, where the course provider has close contact with the managers, if they can even provide coaching and training for the coaches, that would be quite helpful. The next thing you want to do is embed coaching into the course delivery itself. And leveraging your facilitators is good for this. So we want to make sure that the facilitators are aware that coaching is going on and that they are happy to support it happening. So, during the facilitation sessions, can we get the facilitators to ask learners to share their experiences of coaching? Because what that'll do is it will encourage them to participate and get their coaches to participate as well. So while all of this is going on and you're running your pilot coaching in your first course, you may need to provide additional support for learners, facilitators, and coaches as well to make sure that it's successful. You might want to monitor the engagement of the coaches, see how many people are logging into the platform, accessing that coaching dashboard, accessing the coaching guide as well. And then at the end of your first program, check in with the learners, check in with the coaches and see, did you use it? How did you find it? Were there any niggles that we could improve upon, so that we can then move to the last bit, which is optimize and standardize. So from that feedback that we're gathering from the learners and the coaches, we just need to make some minor updates, perhaps to the way that it's set up, or even the explanatory language in the onboarding to make sure that learners know how to enroll their coach and coaches know how to access the various things that they need to do on the platform. Once you've kind of ironed out those wrinkles, you can then embed coaching in your suite of programs, start to standardize your materials, your coaching guides and things like that. So you can start to scale up coaching as part of your course propositions. And kind of the last point of that is to really advocate for manager-led coaching as part of your courses. It can be a great selling point for people if they're trying to choose between two different products. Perhaps manager-led coaching is the kind of cherry on top that puts your courses in front of another one. So yeah, that is the implementation roadmap. Feel free to use it.
Cool. We do have a little bit of time left for a Q&A. We do have some questions in the chat. If you have any more questions, please feel free to pop them in. There's a couple of questions about what would you include in the coaching guide. I think you covered that on the last slide, Gemma. I might just call out, I've seen some really, really cool coaching guides, and ultimately it does depend on what sort of course you're running. Some of the coaching guides I've seen have actual worksheets for some of the models, and conversation guides and little processes that you can actually work through in a coaching session with your coachee. Other coaching guides are a little bit less detailed and just have information about the course, what the learner is doing, what will be expected of them as a coach, that sort of thing. Gemma, was there anything else you wanted to add on that one?
Yeah, I think you pretty much covered it off. I mean, it's very important, I think, to provide some context for the coach on what's in the course, and how they can provide information about the employee, their role, their team, their organizational context to kind of supplement the content of the course.
Yeah. Um, there's also another question. What is a good amount of time to expect a coach to put into coaching in a typical program? Now,
Good question.
I'm going to give you a very vague answer, which is how long is a piece of string? It will depend a little bit on the organization. We have some organizations we work with that have a really high commitment to manager-led coaching. And because of that, because the organization itself is backing it, we can sort of expect a little bit more time from coaches within a manager-led coaching environment. I think this also ties into building coaching into the organizational cadence as well. So maybe I'm already having a one-on-one each week with my direct reports. Can I bring the coaching into that session? And to be quite frank, it's going to depend on what the program is about as well. There are, people can do coaching for years and, still have things to be coached about. So I think it will depend, but one of the important things when setting up manager led coaching is to be upfront with the coach about how much time is expected. If you get on the front foot with that and make sure they're aware of what's sort of expected as a coach, they're much more likely to commit to that.
Yeah, I think it also ties in with making sure that you communicate the value of manager-led coaching,
Mm,
so that that manager is more engaged and more willing to give their time.
yeah.
Because if they do, then their learner is more likely to succeed and more likely to get positive business outcomes.
Yeah, yeah. The more we can give them to be a good coach is going to really help with that concept of learning transfer. Excellent. If there are any other questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. Otherwise, I think we are just about done for today.